Hey, and welcome back to the Wicked Wild Podcast, a feral podcast for the uncivilized horror fans. And once again, we are doing a JEFE recommendation. And once again, JEFE is not here to enjoy it with us. But I will say confidently that he probably does regret this one because I know that JEFE is a big Godzilla and kaiju fan. But so we watched this one in his memory. Not that he's dead or anything. He just has a lot going on in his life right now. But we do want to make sure that we do a good job so he can listen to the episode and then critique our opinions for all the different ways I'm sure that they're wrong. So we hope he does find that pant leg and gets back to us as soon as he can. We'll get that thing sewn back on and get him walking straight again.
It's the ninth wonder of the world. It's like the new Bigfoot, just pant leg.
And that wonderful sultry voice you hear there is my buddy Eli up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. How's it going, Eli?
Oh, you know me, living the dream
every day.
Every day.
So this movie feels like a big reset for the whole Godzilla universe to its roots. Obviously, that's what everybody talks about. So which classic GZ opponent would you want to see in a sequel to the -1 universe?
Listen, I have an answer.
Okay.
But not for the reasons you think.
Okay.
I love the old Godzilla movies.
Mm-hmm.
Love them. Watch them all the time. My answer would be Mothra.
Okay.
Not because I like Mothra, but in the OG, the people who worship Mothra,
the twins,
where they what's crazy was it started out as a tribe of 3-inch tall people who sang the saddest song to get Mothra to do anything, which seems kind of weird. There's a whole history in Godzilla of different monsters who had people worship that had to sing sad songs to get them to do anything. But like the Mothra ones, but there was 2 twins that were her guardian. And in later movies, there was this whole thing of them trying to help the humans to help Mothra, and the humans always sticking these 3-inch people into different containers to take them places. Like one movie was a seashell, one movie was a lunchbox, and then there was always that scene where they're like, "Oh no, Mothra's being beat up," and they would open the container, and those twins would stand up and they'd go, "Mothra, Mothra, why you cry, Mothra?" I don't know why. I don't know why. It tickled me, and I've loved it my whole life. But like, that's what I want. And I swear, knowing my luck, they'll have those twins again, but they won't be 3-inch tall. They won't be in a lunchbox. They won't sing the Mothra song.
So what's the point? Yeah.
What's the point of even doing Mothra? But that's what I want.
So it sounds like if we're talking in collectible terms, the kaiju itself is okay, but it's the accessory pack that comes with that specific kaiju
for sure,
sells it for you.
Because what killed me, if you look at the Godzilla films, when they brought in King Caesar, they tried to do the same thing, but they were normal sized people. They weren't in lunchboxes, and the song was not great. And I don't know what the point of them making King Caesar, because every time he was in a movie, it was literally just you to watch him get his ass whooped.
Wow.
Where Mothra was whooping ass and having 2 3-inch tall twins singing to her.
So it sounds like we already have Wicked Wild spinoff number 7, because I really do want to get Eli rates the hits of the Godzilla series. Like, you just rate the songs of the soundtrack.
I would do, because there's songs for all of them.
And they're important.
They are important. They are important. Some I wish weren't.
All right. Before we lose the thread altogether, let me introduce my other host, Jamie. How's it going, Jamie? Up in New Jersey. Or is it Joyzy?
Yeah. Oh, God. I don't know. However you want to say.
So we've talked about this before, and we know that you're very hit or miss on creature features. Some of them you absolutely love, and some of them you just couldn't care any lot at all about. But as I'm watching this movie, I did think of you. And my question for you is, how long is it going to take you to organize a Don't You Dare Hurt Godzilla organization to put an end to all these traps and weapons of trying to kill a creature that's just doing his thing?
Because as I'm watching this, Dave, you know me so well that like
I can feel your anger.
My biggest comment in all these, and now I'm looking at my notes to see if I actually wrote this. No, but you know that my biggest complaint on some of these things is like he's just fucking doing his thing. It's not his. Just
you
leave
started
him
it
alone. I do have a question that's actually related to all Godzillas that's in that vein, but we'll get there. But yeah, no, Dave, you know me. I'm just like, leave this poor thing alone.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, you know.
Yes, he just flattened your whole city. That's your problem. Leave him alone.
He's 1,000 feet tall. Like, yeah, he can't always see.
He can't avoid. Like, you know, what is he gonna do?
Especially not in this movie with those hips.
Yeah, and who made him 1,000 feet tall?
Yeah,
we did. And now you want to trap him and drown him?
Yeah,
not cool, people.
Yeah. So whose fault is it? Not Jamie's.
Who's the real monster? I think we know the answer to that.
We always know the answer to that.
Exactly. And we'll get into that more as we get into the review for this movie. But before we do that, as we do each week, we are going to give Eli the opportunity to give us a little update in the paranormal world and a little section we call Wicked Whispers.
How we're still here, I don't know. Humans are now starting to play forces they don't. I mean, we have been, but we're just like, fuck it. No, we play forces we don't understand. Especially those fuckers that are always looking at space and aliens. They've been doing math or whatever. And it came out this week that they think our galaxy and all the galaxies around it might have already been sucked into a black hole. Which, that don't sound great. Oh, if that's the case, that could be the end of us. And we don't even know it yet because time works differently in a black hole.
Yeah, we're dead. We've been dead for thousands of years.
Or dying slow. I don't know. But apparently, we're all living in a black hole now. So that's great. Just add that to the list of things that go wrong. UFO sightings are still high. So that's cool. The aliens are still watching us. We don't know why. Conspiracy theorists are starting to come back around again. Think they might be in the government. That's a possibility. There's been some Bigfoot sightings this week. He's just walking around though.
Where's he at this week?
Well, it was seen in like 4 different states.
At the same time?
Not on the same like day and time, but roughly around the same like time frame. There's a couple sightings in the Pacific Northwest, Washington, or one of them was Oregon. And then there was also a sighting this week in Alabama, of all places.
Alabama?
Which I don't think Bigfoot would go to Alabama. just throwing that out there.
Are you saying even Bigfoot wouldn't have anything to do with Alabama?
Listen, all I'm saying, and hey, for anybody that listens, if you live in Alabama,
Roll Tide.
We love you. We're glad you're listening. Even you, I want to think about this question, Alabamers. When's the last time anyone's ever said, I'm going to Alabama for fun? Never.
I mean, to the point you just made, our actual space and rocket program is in Alabama.
And that's what I'm saying. All the worst stuff's in Alabama. They're fucking with aliens and black holes. That's all I'm saying. So that's going on. So like that, Bigfoot's walked around. I'm sure there's no connection with the black hole. Might be, because there are also people that think Bigfoot was made by aliens. But we got a bunch of aliens flying around. We don't know what they're doing. That's not great. It was announced also this week, which has been announced for every week for the last 2 months, that some new hardcore evidence will be coming out of Skinwalker Ranch. That announcement's come out every week for the last month and a half. That evidence has not been released yet. But hey, people, any day now, we're supposed to see irrefutable evidence of Skinwalker Ranch. They didn't say. Okay, they didn't say. But it's coming out. All right, people? It's coming out. So you have that to look forward to. Let's see.
If the press release isn't covered by a guy that's completely greased up wearing water wings, I don't want it.
Yeah, if it ain't me, you don't want it. The AI front, there was some talk this week that because humans can't help it, right? We just can't help but to give the plans of our destruction to those who want to destroy us. There was talk this week that eventually, pretty soon, because they think the new estimate is that AI will not only be fully cognizant, but will be oh man, I lost the word. Basically be a person, better than a person. By the end, sentient. Thank you. AI will be sentient by the beginning of 2028. I know we all looked at our calendar. That's 4 years, and that by that point, it will probably make a strong case that it should be politicians, that it should run governments, as it will do it fairly and more efficiently and give us everything we want. So, and people are already arguing the merit of, would it be better if countries are ran by an AI? So that's great. I mean, that's great.
Skynet's running for president in 2028. Is that what you're
basically, instead, like, our votes are coming down to an end because they'll just be like, hey, let's vote for President AI. And then, like, that's who we'll have. So, like, that doesn't seem like a bad idea at all. You know what I
mean? The way the 2024 election is headed, I can see a computer making a pretty compelling case for sure. You're done. Okay, yeah. You're done. Just
for sure.
Walk away.
We are just handing over keys to our own destruction because we've been trying to turn those keys for years.
Yeah,
and finally, like, we're not doing it good enough. So that's happening. President AI will be here soon. All I hope is that whatever digital face it makes just looks good. Maybe if it looks like me, that'd be cool.
You know what would be awesome? If it went full Max Headroom. Like we just had Max Headroom for president. That would be fantastic.
Hold on, Dave. What happens if Max Headroom video, or wait, what if that video,
the mystery video,
was actually from the future to tell us coming president in the past where we're going to? You might just solved a one of the greatest mysteries of all time. So that happened.
You know, it's what I do. I don't like to brag, but
that's what you do. And the final little fun story I have for you. I was reading an article today. Apparently, not to be outdone by aliens, AI, Bigfoot, whatever those things that came out of those eggs were, vampirism is on the rise. So,
what?
Yeah, I was reading an article that
how can that be on the rise? I'm confused.
Because, Jamie, vampires, there's not any vampires left with like the fangs and sucking your blood, but there are plenty of energy vampires, which are apparently a real thing.
What we do in the shadows?
Yes, exactly like that. That has actually been a thing going on for years. It is believed by a lot of occultists that the highest population of energy vampires lived in the South. Why of all places they chose, but they just said the South. Southeast of the U.S., the highest population of energy vampires. Apparently the number's on the rise. So now apparently we have to fight Colin Robinson as well in this apocalypse that never seems to fucking end.
Or join him. We don't have to fight him if we just join him.
Yeah.
I could do have with being an energy vampire.
I don't know, but I don't know if they can turn you to an energy vampire.
According to what we do in the shadow rules, I don't know that he's ever turned anybody, right?
Yeah, I think you have to be like a fangy one to turn. Energy vampires just eat. No, they just eat.
Yeah.
So that's everything we got going on now. The one story I'm waiting to update, and I'm sure we talk about, is there was also a guy claiming to have visions of Antoine LaVey. So that can't be bad. So as I get more updates on that, I'll let you guys know if we're still alive.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Stay on top of that. If there's any breaking news, and I know that you had mentioned, you had teased a couple of weeks ago that we might have another Alien special edition coming.
We literally we are on the butt crack of that.
Then I'll pass.
As soon as if that law passes where it gives full protection and removes NDAs from whistleblowers, and our current Congress, which is at the lowest efficiency rating of any Congress in the last 300 years, it could be a couple years, but it's supposed to be coming up soon for vote. If that happens, apparently there's like 25 people all ready to go to just testify and say whatever. So
Can't wait to sing like parakeets, huh?
Oh, I'm telling you, people now, that day comes, there will be a 25 to 90 hour campfire tale coming out.
Oh, God.
Depending on how long it is.
Well, we'll wait for Jeff to be back for that. We'll need him to help you with your enunciations through that one.
No, just let me say things the way I want. Let me say it the way I want.
Well, thank you, Eli. Appreciate that. And as we move into the actual movie review this week, as I mentioned before, we're doing Godzilla -1. We understand the movie's almost a year out at this point, but we still consider it a newer release and one that we think will be fun to talk about. Glad that Jeff put it on the list for us and put it in his block. But as we do, we're going to do our on-the-fly synopsis. That's where I ask one of our hosts a random question that randomly selects one of the other hosts, myself or Eli in this case, because I'm going to be asking Jaime to give a quick synopsis of the movie we watched for this week. So, Jaime, question for you is, if we had a legendary kaiju established here in the U.S., we're one of the few countries that doesn't have a kaiju legend, which cryptid would you want it to be based on? Would you like to see a kaiju-sized Bigfoot or a kaiju-sized Wendigo? Which would you prefer?
Oh, man. Dave, I like both of these. I won't be mad at either.
You wouldn't, but I'm going to... Oh, if you are either, you wouldn't.
Yeah, I won't be mad about either.
I think I know who's who, but I'm also just going to make my choice based on what Dave asked me. So I'm not going to be biased to who I want to tell the synopsis. I'm going to go with Wendigo.
The Wendigo. A kaiju-sized Wendigo would be a problem.
And that's...
For sure.
Can you imagine?
That'd be a world ender.
That's gonna. I don't know. That'd be insane.
We know his passion and love for this creature. So, Eli, give us a synopsis of Godzilla -1.
Dave, if I was sitting with you in person, I'd kiss you right on the lips.
Well, then,
this is
thank God for little blessings, right?
This is the nicest one you've ever done about me. Hey, Godzilla -1. Japan during the ye old World War eras. This movie's about a guy who's trained to or is a kamikaze pilot, and then baby Godzilla attacks their camp one night, and he's a coward. Then it's kind of about his life and his shenanigans, while Godzilla grows up real fast, and then just some call goes on a rampage, some calls just walking, living his best life. I'll let you decide. And it's about the people of Japan overcoming Godzilla and his shenanigans.
That's it. It's
pretty simple.
Old as time. Yeah, it is this. It is genuinely the origin story of Godzilla. Like they've taken it back to the very beginning, which is exciting. So, Eli, tell us about your. Did you see this when it came out in theaters? Was this your first watch? Tell us about your experience with this movie.
I love Godzilla movies. I've been a fan all my life. Except for some of the more recent ones. But when this came out to theaters, I was real excited because the US and Japan have kind of two separate Godzilla cinema universes. And historically, Japan has gone through phases where they've done Godzilla as an enemy to him being a defender of humanity. Well, in Japan, it has gone back to a menace. And so I was real excited about that because I love the original Godzilla movie. So I was real excited to see it. I didn't get to see it in theaters. Then it came out on Netflix, so I was super excited. And I watched it, and it's fine. This Godzilla won a lot of awards, especially for its CG or for its CGI, which I don't know if we watched the same movie because there are parts of this movie that look really cool. There are parts of this that don't look really cool. A lot of that is Godzilla. Because I thought he was real hit or miss until the end when he kind of looked good. And I think a lot of it was his legs. His bottom half was shaped odd.
He's a chunky boy.
At every aspect of this movie, so much so when he walks, he can barely walk. It's like his hips, his thunder thighs are chafing, and he walks weird, whatever. But his atomic breath weapon was cool. They did something cool with him about his like cellular regeneration, which I thought was dope. And that's the only good thing about this movie is Godzilla points. The story for the people, until the end, is boring as shit. From the beginning, when you see Godzilla in the very beginning of the movie till he shows back up again, feels like 95 minutes. Even though it's not that long, but like the main character and like his whole ordeal and like things that are trying him, maybe one of the boringest things I've ever seen in my life. People love him, whatever. I like the one science character, and he wasn't really in the movie much till the second half. But like the main character I didn't care about, most of his friends I didn't care about. That was kind of boring. A lot of people were claiming this to be the best Godzilla movie in years, and I just don't see it, I guess. I thought, like I said, I love the OG Godzilla. Now, the one thing that I did really enjoy, which I will defend here, is they went back to the OG Godzilla soundtrack and kind of redid it, his like OG Godzilla song. And that was chef kiss. That was real good. So
they used it well too.
They used it real well. Like that scene with the boats, like going out for their final plan to kind of stop them. That was fantastic. But like that, yeah, I just did not care for this. I thought Godzilla was also like, I mean, Godzilla looked good, and like there are parts where he's kind of cool, but like he really wasn't a menace. He was just like walking places and just stepping on shit until they started fucking with him. But like he wasn't a menace like before, where like he'd come up on land to like fuck these people in their houses. Like I'm here to fuck shit up. This one, he's just like walking around and just like, why are they bothering me? Like, so that was like, I thought that was like, what really is a menace. It was like, almost feels like if an elephant walked through your house and you start swatting with a newspaper to get it out and be like, what did I do? Just walking through your house. So it was fine. Was it the worst Godzilla movie? I don't know if I'd say it was the best. It was mid-tier.
All right. Well, that's interesting. We're going to have a good conversation here in a little bit. All right, Jaime, this is the moment I have all been waiting for, because obviously, you are kind of hard to nail down on the whole creature feature. Sometimes you absolutely love them. My guess is, and I don't want to spoil, is I think I know where you're going to land on this one. I think this one may be a little too slow for you, but give me your honest opinion on this one.
Okay. So I did not see this in theaters. But I'm going to start with I'm not a huge Godzilla fan. And that's not saying that I don't like them. It's just not something I've ever really been interested in. I think when I was younger, I did see one or two of the originals. I feel like this was something, and I could be wrong, and it could have been someone else that made me watch it. But I've mentioned here or there on this podcast, my grandparents used to have a video store. I'm old, in Brooklyn, and my cousins used to rent anything and everything. So I feel like in my years, I saw some of the OG, and I'm saying in the 80s or the 90s or something, I do feel like I saw one or two more recently, and not at all recently, but I guess not as a child. It doesn't matter. Point is, I've also seen the newer ones. I've seen the Kong versus Godzilla, the Godzilla on his own with the Stranger Kids thing. I've seen those. And to be fair, in all those, I root for Godzilla. I'm a Godzilla more than a King Kong kind of person. My dad would kill me for that. He's a huge King Kong fan.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So, I had heard, Eli was just saying too, I had heard that this was a great, one of the best Godzilla movies, or that it was back to original 4. Can I say, do I know that? No, but to me, this did, from my purposes and what I've seen, this did feel more like an original Godzilla film. And maybe it's just simply being in Japanese and being, you know what I mean? Than it does the Kong versus Godzillas and all those ones that I've seen in recent years. I'm not complaining about that, but it's definitely it just feels different. And to me, that felt more OG, more what Godzilla's in the vein of. These new Godzillas to me is not what I always thought he was, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It was slow. One of my first notes is that it takes a long time to get started. Besides, you said, that opening scene, because he is present right in the beginning or whatever. And I also felt he was changing size in that scene. Like, I don't know. He constantly looked bigger and smaller and bigger and smaller. And I couldn't figure out what was going on there. Just the scale. Like, they couldn't get the scale right. I don't know if that was like CGI, but like, there was something about sometimes he looked like he was like 100 stories big. And sometimes he looked like he was 50 stories. It doesn't matter. But that was like one of my original. But it's slow. I feel like it's maybe I'm being, and listen, I made it very clear here too. I do not watch dubbed versions. We have to watch it in its original, like how it's intended to be. Like, I need subtitles, but maybe I'm like, then you have to like sit and focus on reading and paying attention. And like, maybe the fact that I couldn't do anything else while watching this, not that, but I kind of agree with Eli. The main guy did nothing for me. I didn't find chemistry in him, that girl, the kid. None of them did anything. So I knew that they were our driving force. I'm supposed to care about them. I'm supposed to care about them either A, staying together, or him doing this for that or whatever. But like, they didn't do that for me. They just literally felt like three people in a way. I know one's like a little child, but like three people that just came together and like were just whatever. I did like his friends more, and I like the science guy. I like those. I was more interested in his boat crew than I was like him.
Yeah.
And even like, I think later we get like that captain. I kind of like that guy too. There was other people that I liked a lot more than our main guy. I don't know what it is, but so it was fine. Will I watch it again? Absolutely not, because it's just not my, not my thing.
Just won't be motivated to, yeah.
I don't think it's like that. And what's funny is actually, this was something my family apparently all watched together without me. And I don't mean it like that. So, my sister, especially I feel like my sister and my mom have very, 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 very different tastes in movies. Mm-hmm. My sister, hardcore horror, my mom, rom-coms and like very
girly movies,
hallmarky and happy movies. She was visiting them, and this was like a conference. This was a movie they all watched, and I think they all liked it. They told me like, so I was just like, so I went into it too, being like, all right, my whole family, kind of enjoyed the movie. So at least I know it's going to be like it's not non-offensive,
It's it's not garbage.
Yeah, it's not, and it wasn't garbage. It's just, I'm not a big Godzilla fan. So it's interesting to hear Eli's take on it as a Godzilla fan, because I was under the impression that Godzilla fans loved this. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I thought I had heard going into it. But wait for your take too, Dave. Because like, again, I'm like that wild card of like, doesn't really watch this, but is watching it, kind of for a first time in new light. Like, maybe I should watch the old ones, but I don't know if I have the patience for old creature features, but
Yeah, just be prepared. This is the pace of those old ones.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing. Like, so yeah, that's my like 2 cents. And I have, I have some questions for you guys who do watch Godzilla movies and things like that. But yeah.
Cool.
That's my 2 cents. Is it what you thought?
That's about where I'm glad to hear that you at least had a good time. Like, you weren't like rolling your eyes and looking at your watch.
It's not a bad movie. I can't say it's a bad movie. Like, I can't sit here and rant about it. Like, it's just, but.
So, as we talked a little bit before we started recording, I do enjoy the Godzilla movies. As far as creature features, monster movies, or even kaiju, I wouldn't say I am like top shelf. I am deeply soaked in the lore like I am with some anime series. Mm-hmm. But I do enjoy the Godzilla movies, and I enjoy going back and watching the old ones just because they were trying so much with a guy in a rubber suit. I mean, and to your point about the design of this one, I kind of liked that they paid so much homage to the rubber suit Godzilla, because it was obvious that's what they were kind of going for with his big chunky legs and, waddling through the scene. I kind of got a kick out of that, but I was frustrated as I watched this because I really felt like I messed up. And we've talked about this in movies before, that I didn't see this in theaters, and not just to see the scale like on a big screen, but we talked a little bit about this a couple of weeks ago with Alien Romulus. This movie would have been fantastic to hear in full Atmos sound, like just to hear 50 speakers, full surround sound with the roars, like the classic roars being digitally refined, and all of the soundtracks. I would have loved to have been in that theater for all of that. So it was an experience that I missed. And when it comes back to theaters, I'm going to try and track it down and get to it, because I think this would be a fantastic theater experience. Just even if you're not soaked in the lore, which I'm not, I think that would be something to do. I was worried in the first 10 minutes, to be totally honest, because I haven't watched a 1950s Godzilla in years, probably since the 80s, when I was consuming anything Japanese that I could get my hands on. But I think it was just me recalibrating to seeing all the recent Western Godzilla v King Kong movies, because that's the really interesting thing about what Toho Studio did, is that they released this like in parallel with this other universe where Godzilla is a very established, very different creature on a totally different path than this Godzilla, because they didn't care. I mean, Godzilla is theirs. I mean, they can do what they want with it. But those movies are the star-spangled summer popcorn extravaganzas. We talked about this, and I mean, those are spectacles. I mean, they're just there, and there's no humanity to them, but they're gorgeous. And this is a totally different thing, which is really interesting to have them both. Literally, I think they were both in theaters at the same time, or very close to.
They're very close, I think, because it was like, I wondered if people got confused too.
Yeah.
Like, the people must have, right? Some people must have, who are not paying attention.
Yeah.
Who just say, oh, it's two Godzillas.
Which one was I supposed to see? And there's some poor little high school movie file who asked his parents for the new Godzilla movie on DVD, and he got Godzilla v Kong. He's like threw a fit, like just kind of died inside. Because
I would have tipped.
But once I realized that I just needed to recalibrate, I really had a good time. I really fell into the classic formula of Godzilla, and it was very nostalgic for me. I love the look and style. I mean, this has a very Super Panavision 70 kind of classic film design to it. And I mean, everything's kind of saturated, and the sets are like these expansive, beautiful sets. I recognize there's several special effects scenes where the seams are kind of showing. I think you were talking about that, Eli. I know that they had a very limited budget, but I think they chose which scenes to really double down on well, for the most part. Like a lot of the boat scenes and the water looks kind of goofy at times, but they spent the money on the devastation and the monster. And I think it comes through that way. Like, I think both of those things look well, but yeah, the scenes show, but again, it's a classic Godzilla tale. So, I mean, you literally saw the strings on the jets in the original movies when they would float them in front of the camera.
I love it.
So sometimes seeing those scenes can be part of the endearing experience of it. But again, I understand that I'm being apologetic for a very specific perspective on these movies. But yeah, I do fully recognize that it didn't all look great, but I think the stuff that needed to look good did look really good. So I do hope Toho does more of these and keeps this kind of new universe going, because of the whole Kong and Godzilla King of the Monsters thing. I want there to be this other option to kind of round somebody else, to give them sort of a better picture of kind of where the origin story actually came from and what the actual Godzilla movies were actually about. I mean, they weren't about the spectacle as much. I mean, yes, having a monster the size of a city wreck it, that's a powerful image, but it was about getting down on the ground. And we talked a little bit about this, and when we get into questions, I'd like to talk more about it, but we talked a lot about this in the Cloverfield review we did, that I loved what J.J. Abrams was doing in that movie, because he went back to this formula where it was all about feet on the ground, not being at the monster scale. It was about being at the people scale, dealing with a monster that was as big as a building. And that's always been more compelling to me than the big monster vision kind of watching the city get wrecked perspective on it. I enjoy the filmmaker's voice. I think he did a great job, and message about post-war Japan and the citizens' realization that their government wasn't necessarily working for their best interest. I think that's really compelling. And I understand and I fully recognize that as a Western viewer of this movie, I have no point of reference for how this movie would ever hit for a Japanese audience. I'll say, and we're going to get more into that here in a minute, but it is a stark reminder of our country's choices. I mean, and what we did to that country back then. And the impact it had on not just an entire generation, but an entire culture. But anyway, we'll get more into that in a minute. But I do enjoy how this filmmaker handled that and how he didn't apologize for it. Like that was a big part of what he was talking about here and I don't know, have you all watched Grave of the Fireflies? One of my favorite anime.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a real sunshiny story, Jamie. It's a real feel-good story. It's a little rom-com. No, just kidding. It'll make you very sad. But it's about without getting into all of the details, it's about a like 12-year-old and 8-year-old set of siblings who lose their parents in one of the bombings and slowly try and survive and don't do such a great job. Just having to survive on the streets and having nobody there to support them. Again, very much a reminder to me of, what happened and what part we played in that. Anyway, so Jeff's not here, so I can't hand off to him, but I will hand off to his right-hand man, Eli. I'll let you start off any of the conversation you want to jump into.
I prefer, so like in Japan, like they do like the, I call them buddy cop Godzilla, where like he's defending humanity, but like every so often they come out with these ones where like, well, let's go back OG, because they did in 2000, like they did in 2000 with Shin Godzilla, and then they went back into kind of buddy cop and partner with his boys, and then beat the shit out of other monsters and whatnot. And I always like when they come back to this. I think that the difference with this Godzilla is the one thing I always, because with the rubber suit guys, and I think this started out as accidental because they were these guys in 300-pound rubber Godzilla suits. But even when he was a menace, he always had personality. And like this Godzilla had no personality. It was pretty straightforward. Just him walking and looking. And like, I think that's the one thing I like, even like I said, I don't think they did the best. I like the design. I like how they were trying to call back the old design because he did have chunky hips back in the day, but like he had no personality in this one, and like that I was like, oh, that's a shame because like he would even in the old like the OG one when the planes are flying around and he's going like just a lot out of the air, like, but it's like so fast and just silly,
and his head's wagging around as he's
And like they didn't have that. I was like, that's a miss.
That rubber wasn't designed to bend that way.
No, and they would do it. But like this one, like I just didn't think he had any personality. He just kind of was like, honestly, I'll tell you what it was. It's like because Godzilla was also always kind of smart. And like he would like think on the fly and do these. Like I remember for a while, like during the 60s and 70s, he had a drop kick move where he would like go on his tail and like, skirt and then drop kick somebody. But like this one, they almost made him like a giant dog because like he just kind of blundered around. And then like the whole ending, that whole thing with the plane was like, it was like watching a dog going after a fly. And I was like, oh. So I think that like, that was like the one miss for Godzilla for me. Also, besides the fact that the 1,500 meters didn't make sense when he was standing up, even though they sunk him below. Thought that was a little whatever. But
the math didn't math for you?
Yeah, math didn't math for you. But like, I don't know, Dave. I don't know what you think. I just didn't think he had any personality in this. It was just a thing.
I mean, I haven't, like I said, I haven't watched many of that. I'm going to take out these new ones where they're not the Japanese ones because I kind of agree. He kind of was just there. He's the main protagonist, if you will, whatever you want to call him, because like whatever. But he kind of had nothing. He had nothing going on. Like he just stomped and he stomped. I don't know. There was no. I don't need him to be human-like, but I agree. Like he kind of just like things he would do. I guess felt like, and maybe this is old. They felt more by accident than intentional. I guess in a way, which is what we were making fun of in the beginning when I was saying like, don't blame him for just walking around and stepping and stomping because like whatever. It just felt like he just like nothing was. Which maybe that's the way he is. Maybe that's the more, I don't know, maybe that is the more
no, the more Japanese
scary way. No, but I'm saying it's more intimidating that he doesn't have he's just destroyed. I don't know, but he also just, he didn't feel like he's just, I don't know, there was just something about his destroying that felt like, I mean, it's massive and you're watching, it's a massive scale and you're watching these buildings come down and you're watching these people, you know, and that resonates and that's not lost on me, but it also just doesn't feel, I don't know, there was just something about him that just, you're right, maybe it had no character to it, like no, I guess we can call it personality, yeah, but like no.
Because even like in the beginning scene when you see the baby version, which kind of looked like an ass blaster.
Is that what that was? I didn't know that.
Kind of looked like an ass blaster from Tremors 2, a little bit. But like even that thing was like kind of vicious. I was like, oh, I'm like they're going back to like number one, where like because Godzilla was a real prick. And then
he was the one picking them up and eating them, right? Basically, in the beginning, like he's the one that picked people up and like chomped them in half or something.
And then, like as the movie went on, like it was almost like they forgot to add those things in there, and he just was walking, like just walking and doing stuff.
Well, and we've talked about this before, and we've joked that, you know, Japan has the greatest list of bangers as far as cryptids and ghosts and folklore. I mean, they tell stories like so unique and so deep and so amazing. But you know, the Godzilla that we see in the war camp on the island is the cryptid Godzilla. And then he has this run-in with technology, you know, speaking of all of the testing we were doing in the specific that makes him this other thing. And I thought it was very interesting to, you know, just as a counterpoint, you know, yes, he was oddly goofy. I mean, when he doesn't move as very coordinated wise, you don't know what he's up to. He doesn't really have a plan. He's just this big dumb animal. But then he gets in the city and they attack him, and then he does this thing that you were completely not prepared for. Like when and I think this movie does a really, really good job of capturing the scope of his finishing move, his atomic breath. Like when he charges up and does
like
that.
When his scales come out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When he does that and like the city just flattens and you could literally feel the air get sucked out of that room. Like all of the people were like, we have no answer for this.
Yeah.
And you get a sense of, okay, I know what they're talking about here. I mean, it's right on the nose of what they're talking about. Like this is a thing on another scale. Like we have no answer for a creature that could do this or that is this devastating. So
I'll say, I agree.
That change from big dumb animal to holy crap, now what do we do? I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, I will agree with you because like you could tell, like that's probably where the effects shine the most for me, and maybe that's why they won these awards for these 6 scenes. All the scenes with his atomic breath weapon was dope as shit. It looked so good, and even what I thought was pretty interesting is like this version of the atomic breath weapon, because there was a couple scenes where you're looking directly in his mouth, and you see the kind of reaction that's occurring to create that was kind of cool because like. Typically you don't see it that way with these movies, but like I thought that was cool. Like the atomic breath weapon was even like the ending, like I actually generally like the ending. It almost felt very Jaws like.
Well, and that's what I was going to talk about too, is that whole boat hunting of Godzilla. You got to get your Jaws on with that one. That's just fun. I mean, even the music goes into a Jaws level. It's very playful and upbeat.
I like it, but like even like that boat scene when they're out in the water and like when he blows up that the decoy boat, but just you see the sheer scale of that. I was like, all right, here we go.
You know, one thing that bothered me about that though, I don't know if it's the same scene though, because that's why I had to say this, because it's one of my notes, is he blows up. Yeah, is it when he blows up the giant? I just wrote giant ship down. Are we talking about the same one though? It does not matter. When he blows up one of the giant ships or whatever, and they're on the little boat. So I think it's that scene. I don't know if that's the same, but they're on like the little boat.
Oh, you're talking about in the middle. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, but I just said there's no waves. There's no nothing. He just blew up a fucking massive like Navy like battleship, and their little fucking shit like little boat does nothing. That's so dumb, but it bothered me so much.
It's that stable. It's well designed.
So I thought it was the same blowing up, and that's why I had to interject with that. But
well, to your point, like that's like there definitely was issues with sizing. throughout the movie, like his side. She'd be like, because like I even thought the same thing at the end, even though I liked the ending, was like when their crane broke and all those tugboats helped, and you see that crane is hanging on for dear life. But they still like, oh, we'll just hook up a bunch of tugboats and pull it. And they're like, oh, let's bring them up now. And I'm like, that crane is down to one connector on this boat. Like, there's no way. Even if you had a million tugboats, it all like, yeah, it's like this ain't working. And it also didn't make sense because they shut the Freon off. And I'm like, well, he should let us swim now. And he's just like, no, he's stuck underneath there. It's like, okay, sure, all right.
So let me ask you this, Eli. While we're talking about the motives and personality of Godzilla, I think that, and this is what I want your feedback on. I think a lot of our expectations with our monsters comes from a very Western perspective. Like, we want our moral positions. We want sort of there to be a shared language of right and wrong between our monsters and ourselves. I think and that's why we get things like the Godzilla versus Kong. Like, those are, you got one who's defending the earth and one who's defending a culture kind of thing. It's literally this bigger conversation that we're using these big monster. And even, and we loved him. We talked about him recently. Del Toro, when he did Pacific Rim, he was not talking about big robots and monsters. He was talking about much deeper crap. But I think that comes from sort of the way we write and consume stories. That's not necessarily a Eastern thing. It's a very Western perspective.
In terms of how I think Western considers personality, I 100% agree. But something where like what Japan did that was different than like the States King Kong, like OG King Kong was just a monkey. Mm-hmm. Like, it was legit just a monkey. Where like what they did with Godzilla, even in like the original one, was like he still had this like anamorph, or I'm gonna fuck that word up. West Virginia's coming through. Anamorphorized. Fucked up again.
Anthro. Wait, am I right, Dave? Anthro.
Yeah, I think you've flown too close to the sun.
I did. I threw it too close. I'm saying the word in my head.
Anthropomorphized is what the word you're looking for.
Anthropomorphized. I'm saying the word in my head, which kills me, but my lips are just like blah 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 blah.
I appreciate the effort, though.
Thank you. But like Japan, where they kind of made Godzilla stand out, was that they gave him like animal level personality. And like that OG one, like not even like human, but like he had that, like you could tell, like he got annoyed and angry, and he would, and because that, like that's when he started to do his like hand thing, and maybe initially in the first one that was purely accidental because of the suit, but like they kept up with it through every one of them, and most Japanese Godzilla movies, he has like that, like I said, not like maybe like a humanistic personality that we expect in like the West, but like almost every animal has a different personality, and like he had one, and like it's changed through the different eras over there of him. But like in that first one, like Godzilla was a straight up menace, and he would get pissed at the slightest inconveniences and then just go nuclear in his surroundings. For this one, as much as they called back to that original one, with like the soundtrack and even like with his design, even with despite add a few things, whatever, it just felt it at times for me, it almost felt like I was looking at like a Westerner's perspective of how Japanese Godzilla should be, instead of, which doesn't make sense because this is a Japanese Godzilla. And like the fact that they left that out, it felt something was missing. Cause like he is an animal, but like animals have personalities. And like, that's the kind of level of personality they gave in the East, like an animal level personality. Mm-hmm. And that I miss. Cause like, even like, I have historically not liked, the American versions of Godzilla, except for two. I did like the 2009 Godzilla.
The original one?
The original one. That's the one with the guy. Yeah, with Bryan Cranston. And I did like King of the Monsters. And in both of those ones, they like, yeah, Godzilla's fighting for humanity and stuff like that, which even Japan's has done throughout its like career there. But like the thing they did with him was like they gave him almost that animal level personality points, which I thought was like kind of cool that they did it that way instead of him being like, once it got to Godzilla versus Kong, then he might as well be a fucking Avenger. But like with those two movies specifically, because it wasn't so much about like him giving a shit about humans. It's just, I'm the biggest monster here.
Yeah.
And like it was like an animal level thing, which I like. So like I definitely think that like people that look at this that might like Godzilla vs. Kong but not like this because it's not the same Godzilla, that's like a very Western like philosophical, like they're fighting for humans. But if you even look at his perspective, like at least like an animal level personality, like they just didn't give him that in this. Mm-hmm. And like especially considering like that's kind of what made him blow up over King Kong, because I'm pretty sure the first Kong in the States won, like they came out around the same time. And Godzilla won that war, even like to the general public, Godzilla won that war over in the States over Kong, which was made in the States.
Yeah. Yeah, because, well, in my opinion, in those original movies, Kong was always a malicious sort. I mean, he was a malicious creature. He was just there to wreck stuff. He was he was stealing our women and climbing our buildings.
It was like watching a Disney villain.
Yeah.
Where King Kong was like,
he was not very dimensional at all.
No, but where it's like King Kong and like the OG Godzilla, it was like, oh no, this is one of those animals that you don't cross. It's almost like dealing with a bull, like during mating season, like in a cow field, like it don't want you around it, just let it do its thing. But if you get involved, okay, well it's gonna hit you with its fucking horns and you're gonna be in trouble. And like that's like how the OG kind of like but I just felt like that was missing, and like because of that, like maybe it showed up a little bit at the end when he was like the kind of the finale of fighting those boats, but like it just felt like they could have replaced him with anything, any creature, and you've had the same effect, because like this, it just didn't like look kind of like, it looked like Godzilla had the atomic breath weapon, which arguably probably one of the best ones out of recent Godzilla movies, but it just didn't feel like that was Godzilla. It felt like it was the Aldi's brand Godzilla.
You're always ragging on Aldi's.
I am, and I continue. They know what they did to me, and until I get a strongly written letter of apology, I'll continue to compare things.
You will always compare. I don't think you're getting that letter, dude. Sorry. I don't think they can afford to send you a letter.
They know what they did to me.
Question.
Sure.
So, as someone who does not know, in all like in there's like a ton of Godzillas, right?
Yeah.
Again, not Japanese only.
Yeah, they're well over 20 at this point.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. So, question, just in general for these 20 movies, although you dude said sometimes he is on the side of like whatever, but in the ones where where it's this, I guess, where he's just like a menace, let's just call it whatever. Do they always kill him? Like, do we always win in the end? No. They don't? Okay, I was just curious.
Sometimes he just goes to sleep, or he goes back in the ocean. Usually he just goes back.
He just goes back. He just turns around and goes home.
Yep.
Like, fuck it, I'll come back.
They kind of like hit him with a bunch of weapons.
I was just curious.
And you always get this pressure, like, especially the older ones, like the way he like kind of look around, it was like, well, fuck this. And then he would just go back in the water and just leave.
Takes a break. Okay. I was just curious if like, because Dave, to your point earlier, when you asked me how I felt about it, like when I wrote that question, I was like sitting here thinking like people who watch these, do they watch 20 movies of us just killing this poor monster over and over again? Like, I just feel like
Jamie is not okay with that.
No. Like, how much of this do we really need? Like,
in those Godzillas, like especially the Japanese ones, like that was always the scary part. Like for me, like the kind, despite how they look, but like that was always the scary part, because like we never really won. It was more so the lines like he just got tired out.
Yeah,
and like
he's
like
he got bored and went home.
Yep. He's like, okay, it's nothing we did.
Yeah.
We had no effect on him. It was just like he was just like, all right, well this is dumb, and then he would leave. And like there was some of those movies that were like a lot of times you have this one character where people were like, oh, we beat him, and like there's always that one guy who's like, we did it.
Yeah.
And like, that's how the movie ends. You're like, oh my God.
We did it.
I kind of would have liked that here then, like.
Yeah.
Well, and this is the first time, and I thought it was interesting that they did introduce into the canon his whole Deadpool healing factor thing, which I thought was great, because that does explain some of that. You're never really going to get rid of him. I mean, even if you blow him apart, he's just going to come back together. Apparently, if you blow his head off, he'll just grow another one.
Yeah, blow his head off. He turned to dust. Like, that's the only thing. Like that. Like, I like the regeneration thing. I wish they didn't go the route where they're like, oh, well, if you stop his atomic breath mid thing, he like turns to dust. And then, spoiler, like the ending scene for this is like, there was one cell left and it's growing. And you're like, all right.
Yeah. But I do love that they love him enough to always give him an out. Godzilla is never going away. Yeah. And they are unapologetic about that.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, even I'm fine with that. He could stay forever. I have no problem. He's not oversaturated, to me, at least. I don't. He feels like he needs to be here, like, forever.
Yeah.
Like he does. He's like a staple of.
Yeah. He has earned his deity level, really, at this point. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Oishi, because I think this movie's as much about him as it is Godzilla.
That the main guy?
Yeah, he's the kamikaze pilot.
I do have something about him also, so I'll get to it when you're done.
Okay. Well, I really find it interesting. Again, and I've gotten to, y'all know this, I've gotten to go to Japan several times, and
you're taking me.
I love the culture. I am taking you
on my friends know
guided tour.
I was like, do I?
Oh, absolutely. This is my sister's coming too. Dave's taking. I don't mean Dave's paying for all of us. Dave
of course.
Escorting all of us to Japan.
Keeping you from getting lost is what I'm
perfect. Because I
keeping us in line.
I love Japanese culture. I've always wanted to go.
Same.
Especially after talking to you about those what were they, red bean cheesecake things.
Oh yeah.
Dave knows where you missed it, Jamie, on the Japanese episode. I've claimed that if I ever go to Japan, I'm just gonna eat those from the time I get there,
the way they jiggle,
until the time I leave, and Dave will have to carry me onto the plane.
What? The what? Red?
They're like
not taiyaki or whatever.
What are they called, Dave?
I can't remember. It's just they're bean cakes.
But they like when you watch them make it, they always like smack it and make it jiggle, and then they brand the top. But when people eat it,
I think you're talking about the matcha cakes.
What are they?
The matcha cakes.
I don't know what they are, but I'm going to eat them the whole time I'm there.
Matcha here is like green though. Like when they put matcha in things, it's generally
these are like matcha is a green tea.
I'm gonna look
green
up.
Tea. Anyway, we'll come back to the red bean and the matcha. But anyway, yes. Sorry, Dave. Go back to Japanese. I got derailed telling everybody how you're taking us to Japan.
Oh, that's okay. Well, but my point is, there's so much in that the weight of his story. Like he is. As a kamikaze pilot who refused to do his job and then came back to and landed his plane at this little offshoot, and they find out what he is and the way they react to him, that is completely cultural. Like if you're a kamikaze pilot who refused to die in battle, then you're a pariah. Like you are less than human at that point. Like there is no coming back from that. You are completely set aside by your culture, and we see that play out even when he gets home and his parents are dead already, and all of the neighbors know what he is and who he was, and like he even treats himself as less than human. Like when he takes in this woman and this kid, who the woman and the kid are not related to each other, but they kind of make this little false family together. But even as they kind of raise that child together from infancy up to being a little girl, and the woman starts to have feelings for him and starts to respect him, he never changes himself. Like he doesn't even think about proposing to her because he has no value within his community. Like the only job he's allowed to do is go off and be on this boat and probably die. Like understand that the job they had was removing mines from the ocean so that they could start fishing again. Their job security was that they would probably be dead in a week. Like that's what everybody assumes of them. They're not getting paid much of anything. And he was okay taking that because again, his self-worth was at zero. But to see him kind of develop an understanding of all of that was put on him culturally and socially was was governmentally designed to make him somebody who they could sacrifice at their own whims. And this whole movie, you see not only him, but all of the people in that community starting to realize that maybe our government doesn't have our best interest in mind. Like, they're not taking care of us. They've lied to us. We're left without defense. We're left without families. We've lost a complete generation to this war that should we have even been in? And it was all for this higher level of honor and superiority and all of that. And it was interesting. After I watched this for our review of it, I was halfway through. I don't know if y'all have watched Blue Eye Samurai. It's on Netflix. But that whole series, it's about the shogunate. It was during the samurai times. And it's about a half-blood samurai, spoiler alert. But that whole series is about Japanese culture. It's about their sense of superiority over all of the outside people. Like, they were a completely actively cut off society, because they felt like any other culture that came in would ruin their own purity, like, as a people. And you're seeing these people in this movie going through the ideation of maybe that's not the healthiest way to move forward culturally, to be completely separated, to believe out of hand everything the government tells us. And so I found that really compelling, especially in 2024, is around the world, a lot of people are asking those questions. And we saw, when I grew up, when I was young in the 80s, that was when there was a lot of Japan was this huge superpower economically. And then the U.S. was at that point concerned that they were going to take us over through the economy. They were going to start buying up the U.S. And we had all of these conspiracy theories and all of this insecurity about them as a partner at that point. It's like this never-ending loop of who can we trust? Who are really our allies? Who are really your enemies? And in this one, it gets really intimate, and I find it really interesting, the parallel between Oishi and his kind of character arc, which, I'm a story guy. I mean, no surprise here. I cling to those kind of things, but his whole experience of Godzilla escalates through this entire movie. Like, when he first meets him, he's this, like I said, he's a cryptid. He's in this fort and he attacks the jets that he's never seen anything like that, but he attacks and then he's gone. But then because he's not dealt with, he becomes this bigger and bigger problem until it's this devastating force that Japan has to deal with as a group. So anyway, what are your thoughts on the human story that's kind of tied in here? Did it hit it all for you? I know I totally understand. And like I said, I'm on the outside looking in. I don't understand from a cultural standpoint everything that was being said, but I did find it really compelling how much time they spent in this movie with no monsters whatsoever, just talking about survival of these people in this really desolate situation.
I know for him, like, because I'm a story guy too, and I thought a lot of the side characters had more compelling stories, or maybe the actors portrayed them better than what the main guy did. Because I think his story was difficult because, like, there was very little, and I don't say it's like I understand, like, with his story arc, like what they were telling, but I think the problem was it was they spent so much time on the human element that was supposed to take place over the course of many years, and where, like, his story had become stagnant. And I understand, like, quotes were like, well, he's still at war because Godzilla is still there, but, like, where all these other side characters who also like telling stories, and, like, they're dealing with it, and you're seeing how they're dealing with it over time. Whereas him, like, and maybe if I don't know, like, I mean, I'm not a writer. I probably couldn't do any better, but, like, I think the problem with him was, like, his at times felt stagnant to everything around him, instead of it feeling like him waiting to finish this thing because he was there at the beginning and he had to take care of Godzilla because he failed that night. And like, but like, because if that's the case, if that's the case, like, I don't think they should have had these like growth moments with him, but he wasn't growing with it. And it was like this weird, sometimes you got this weird stagnation with his character. And then finally, when you get the end, it's like, oh, Godzilla killed my not wife or whatever it was. And like my whatever.
Not wife
yeah. Like wife. I got to get this taken care of. Right. I got to get this like taken care of. Like, but like we went all that time with like, you just saying it's out there. Like it's, the war's not over. And like but you're still doing all that stuff. Like you're growing, but you're not growing. Like, so I think it just got to a point where it was just very like, okay, so
yeah.
All right. So now we're just waiting for Godzilla. So then your arc can continue to develop.
So he can.
Yeah. Instead of me watching your arc develop and dealing with Godzilla as part of your arc, I think maybe the pacing with his character was off. Yeah. Where like it felt much more, the pacing was so much nicer for a lot of these side characters. Because even like that, his mechanic friend who didn't want to see him, and then anyway, when he comes back together with that plane, which
I mean, the only survivor from the beginning, the only other survivor from the beginning,
the one who realized what he was and blamed him for everybody dying,
right? Yeah. Right. And so like it was like all those side characters, like their stories were really interesting, and the way they trained. This one just felt like I said, I don't know if it was just how they wrote it. I don't know if it was how he was doing it or what. But just like the pacing felt off as compared to everything else.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Well, again, I think the pacing's off because we're a Western audience, and there's no getting around that.
Sure, sure.
I will say, for him, I found it interesting, or I enjoyed him dealing with. He was the one who made the decision not to die, and that was a shameful decision. But through the evolution of this movie, it's him making the decisions for himself that is actually what's compelling him to become a very interesting character. Mm-hmm. Like, when he's in shame and he's a pariah, and his neighbor tells him what a coward he is, and my son's dead because you didn't do your job, and all of that. And then as he continues to grow and he takes care of the child out of honor, out of, there's a social contract in Japan that you take care of each other, you do what you can for one another. And he's doing what's expected of him. It's not some grand gesture. He takes them in because he's less than zero. The least he can do is let other people share this shelter that he has. But as he grows, she starts to warm to him and tells him that that she actually loves you. You need to get your head out of your tail end and understand what you've been blessed with. And he still says, I have no value. That doesn't matter to me. And then to your point, when they get to the jet with the grand plan, the mechanic actually has a resolution with him and says, I understand now that it's not your fault. All of these things are happening to reinforce to him, maybe it is okay that you made an independent decision as an independent, critical thinking human being, not to do blindly what you were told to do. Maybe that's okay. And maybe that actually gives you value instead of takes value away from you. So that whole thing, even to the very end, when he has the plan to how they're going to resolve in the Big Jaws moment of, he gets his big moment with the mine and the atomic breath. He's the one who has that plan and gets to kind of execute it. That's all independent critical thought trying to solve for X instead of, blindly being told what to do kind of thing. So I find that very compelling. But again, at that time, that just wasn't a thing, even in this story. And if you play any of the Final Fantasy games or watch Seven Samurai or any of them, you always have this very structured story set of how things have to happen. You usually have a Ronin of some kind, somebody who's on the outside, somebody who has fallen short of their post or their role, who's on the outside, who then has to slowly earn their way back into honor and respect within their people. Kill Bill's built on the same structure.
Yeah.
All the Kung Fu movies are built on the same structure. And this is something different. This is not that thing. It's not I've got to earn my honor back. It's maybe my honor is that I made the right decision for myself. And that's a very different kind of thing.
I have mixed feelings on his ending, and I don't remember, and I'm gonna be completely honest, since I watched it a little while ago, I can't even remember if there was a moment of joy when he parachutes out, when he comes down from. I think you know what it is, and I'm not trying to be a complete pessimist and whatever, but I think her moment. And spoiler alert for anybody who haven't watched this. We haven't even really used any names or told you what happens to these people, but I'm just right now, spoiler alert for ends of the movie. It's just in case. His moment was maybe cute. I was just I think her moment was a bit of a cop out because then it lost the impact I had earlier of her sacrificing herself, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm not, we need more, quote unquote, is probably what my mom liked. We need more happy endings in things. And I kind of get that. But
you lost the gravity that she had.
Fake out. It was a fake out. Come on. Come on. And I kind of not that she was more likable than him just from a face. I understand he was dealing with a lot more, but she was more likable. So now she sacrificed herself, whatever. He saves the day and he lives and he gets to go back to this little girl. And that to me felt more impactful than once we just find out she's alive and he gets his happy ending and now he can be with her. And it felt a little, I don't know, it felt a little Hallmarky to me for it
was a little too tidy.
We just took with him and everything we just did with him. He in a way needed to lose her. He needed to lose that opportunity and miss his chance with her in a way. You know what I mean? And I know that sucks, but to your whole growth thing and whatever, that's, he lost that, but now he had the little girl and now he had the little girl to come back to though, and I don't know. And then it's, happy ending. Cause and then you guys can actually explain to me the fucking ending. Cause he gets that. First of all, they give the fucking telegraph and the whole time, what is this fucking telegraph? It has to be about there's nothing really else they could be about.
Right.
I'm just wait, so at least just fucking tell us. But yeah, they runs into the room and she didn't die, which is fucking bizarre, but you're going to explain to me in 2 seconds. But it's I'm not taking it away for people who, my mom, I love that that's where that went. Nobody died. She lived, he lived, the family is together. They're going to be, a nice little thing. Me, it was I think he needed that. He needed to lose her. Right. But then he gets her back anyway, which is cute, is nice. He deserves it in his growth. He probably deserves it. But at the same time, I don't know.
Well, to your point, I had the same thought, but I also, what I felt more devastating was it's not devastating. What the other effect it took from is this was one of the few times where you see the impact of Godzilla on a human scale. Typically, they show his destruction from above and then people
a personal
navigating through the destruction. Okay. But this is one of the few times you see a human fully getting hit by that.
Yeah.
And her getting blown away.
Yeah.
It's holy shit. You can't run. Yeah. You're not big enough to run. You can't get the distance. This is what that hit. And then
don't get me wrong. I got pissed that she pushed him and she stood there. Why didn't she jump? Yeah. Why didn't they both? I'm watching it. I'm why didn't you push and go?
The grand gesture. Yeah. Had to be the grand gesture.
But to me, I was wow. I'm because this shows the scale of devastation on a human, and there's their chances of doing anything about this is so minimal because however far this thing is so big that it's that distance away.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And this is the impact. And then when you get to the end, you see that hospital bed and she looks real nice. She got a little eye patch.
Yeah, maybe one eye. I'm not sure what's going on there. It's
oh, so I guess it wasn't that bad. Okay.
Yeah, I was how the fuck did she live? And now you're going to tell me that because of whatever was in her fucking neck. But it's just Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the grand gesture is gone. The whole thing is gone. The devastation, even everything for him, it's gone. I'm just like, it's tied up in a neat little bow. And it's just like, so we killed Godzilla and he lived and they get to be a little family. And it's like,
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
But okay. I mean, I don't know. I'm like, even talking it out, I go back and forth. Like, people deserve a happy ending. Like, some people just want to go to the movies and have a good fucking time. And the weight of his story was heavy. Like, yes, he had no work. I mean, he spent this whole movie, and I'm not trying to take away from, but like just moping about his worthless life.
And you're just being like, ashamed of himself.
Yeah, the whole thing. And she's trying to tell him that he, like, it's just like,
he's a Debbie Downer for sure.
He's a Debbie Downer. Even if his friends are over, like drinking, having a good time, and and they tell him about the woman. He's like, nope, I'm useless. I'm worthless.
What could I do for her?
Like, and also he's doing it for her. Like,
he's already doing it. You don't have to do anything else.
They built a new shelter. They build a house to get like this. Just like
raising a child.
Yeah, I think that, like, at one friend's like, it's almost like seeing The Office, because like they say something and like it cuts to him. He's just like, and they're like, what are you talking about? What's wrong with you? Look at this place. And he's like,
I don't deserve it, but here it is.
And she's just like, so she gets a job. She's so happy. Right. She's like, look how cute I look. Like, she's got I'm just like,
yeah. And I was the same way. I was like,
he doesn't deserve any of them, really.
Like, this taught him to realize he deserves it. Like, he needs to accept it, like, this goodness, and like now he's gonna be closer to his daughter.
Yeah, like,
and I'm like, after all this terrible stuff, and then it's like, nope, she's fine.
She's just fine.
It's fine.
Yeah. Apparently, his atomic breath doesn't. It's just fine. He doesn't do shit. Stand right in the path. You're cool.
Yeah, you're good.
So, what does she have? She has like some cell. She has something part of, like, what is in her? Why'd she live? A, why'd she live? And B, what is that? What the fuck?
She's Deadpool.
Is she? Is that like? Is like, what is that?
She got Godzilla Deadpool cells.
So I don't even what.
She got Godzilla Deadpool cells.
Yeah, to answer your question, I'm not sure.
But like,
there's a lot of lore, and there's a lot of different people who have different abilities in the Godzilla universe of old. I mean, Eli had mentioned, the 3-inch people, and there's the supernatural world and the real world are much more closely interwoven in their storytelling than it is maybe over here.
Yeah.
Other than our fairy tales, probably. Honestly, European fairy tales are probably the closest thing we have to the Japanese structure. The spiritual world is a very real thing there.
Yes.
So did she come back, or she didn't? You know what I'm trying to say? So like, did it bring her back, or she didn't die because she had, like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, which and we don't know. We may not know.
Honestly, my speculation.
Yes, speculate.
Is this was the ground building for Mothra to be in the next one.
Okay.
Because this movie, which this is gonna devastate me to say this, I'm not gonna get my 3-inch people, and like I'm so sad about this. You don't even know. But honestly, I think so. Like, in the lore, like, Mothra is the kaiju that of healing. Like, in a lot of the Godzilla lore, like, she was, she could heal Godzilla from a lot of stuff, because she would, like, sometimes it was she had like, her OG Mothra shot this like webbing shit out of her mouth. Like some of it hurt you, some of it healed you,
whatever she wanted it
to be. But then, like, it kind of changed, and then she had, like, her attack was her webbing, and then she had this, like, she'd do her moth dust wing thing, and like that would heal you. But they dealt with, like, those seed things a lot. Like, that's because, like, the clan of people who worshiped Mothra as a god when they were 3 inches, like, they worshipped them and kept doing more Mothras, because, like, they used the seeds and things like that, or like eggs, or whatever you want to call them. So when I watched that, I was like, oh, you're going to find out she's from the line that worships Mothra, or somebody, because like sometimes they would bring like lost travelers in to help them. They would it was like Gulliver's Travel. They would drag them in, all the big people, and I'm like, don't tell the world about us 3-inch people. If you don't tell, we'll sing your Mothra song. Mother, That was my guess, because I know like at first when she started, I was like, oh shit, they're bringing King Caesar because he sucks. But then like with that whole thing and then like her being live, I was like, okay, we're good. We're Mothra.
And they overlay some of the Mothra music over
Yeah.
that whole census.
Yep.
That
Oh,
was
they
the
do?
big cue that I got.
Yeah.
Is you can hear the
See, I don't know
choral
that. Okay.
music of the
Yeah.
Mothra main theme
Interesting.
coming in.
But
Because that's the thing
because they're
go ahead.
normal sized people now.
And what's the point if it's just humans?
If I'm not seeing some people in a lunchbox, why am I even watching it?
What is the point of my life? Fair enough.
Mhm.
So, one of the last things I wanted to talk about is the title of this movie, because this is something that a lot of people have asked. Why is it called -1? Well, at the time of the dropping of the bombs on Japan, that was talked about apparently in the culture as Japan being reduced to zero. Like in the country, they said that was the moment where they hit rock bottom. They called it hitting zero. So the Godzilla attack on top of it, because this is obviously, months after the bombs were dropped, or I think it was within a year after the bombs were dropped, and then a Godzilla attack, it put them at -1. So it was Godzilla -1 is where it came from.
Yeah. Okay. Which is very befitting the lore as well, because which they've changed, but OG Godzilla War, that was a side effect of the atomic bombs. Godzilla was.
Yeah. And that's the thing I want to talk about just in the last big thing. And I know that we three are ill-equipped to have this conversation, but I still think it's a conversation we should at least start. And maybe if there are other people that listen to our podcast that have other insights that they would want to share, I would love to have them and to give them a platform. But I have no point of reference for a country going through what Japan went through. And it is part of why I consume so much Japanese literature and media. The movies that Toho Studio puts out as a movie studio they put out all the Miyazaki movies. They put out Akira, all the Godzilla movies. There is so much Japanese media that is around the great cataclysm, however they structure it. But, Akira has its cataclysm. Neon Genesis, which I've talked about in the past, is one of my favorite series, is all about the constant cataclysm of something at a different scale that just is going to wipe out all of humanity and having to fight against that. As the only country that has ever gone through having nuclear weapons dropped on your soil, I have no point of reference for that. And, no matter what we say about any other country or terrorism or anything, there is only one country on this planet that has had the idea to drop nuclear weapons on their enemy, and that's us. And when we did it, it changed the world. I mean, if you watch the Oppenheimer movie last year, that was a poetic view of the Western perspective on the nuclear weapons. But, even in something as goofy as a Godzilla movie, we are seeing a perspective of people that were drastically and forever changed by decisions that were made by our country. And I think that's worth talking about because, again, at that moment, they were the great shogunate. They were all about national pride and nationalism and honor and respect, and that they were superior. And we don't need the influx of all of these outside nations that are going to taint and, what they call the gaijin, which is going to sully or ruin or soil their cultural purity, to being a country that is decimated and completely lost, like being -1, as it is said in this. And I think that is what Godzilla represents, because, a lot of people have always said he represents the nuclear attack. No, I think he represents the thing that happens to the country after the nuclear attack. Like what do you do now? Like, what do we as a people do now?
Yeah. It's interesting because
hopelessness is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched this video series of these people in Japan. They're asking people on the street in Japan like what they thought of the event, and I will. It is probably it's amazing. Probably one of the most graceful things that you like. Almost every answer they got was the U.S. should have never done that, but we should have been doing what we were doing. So like it's almost like like this was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And then like there's like that self-reflecting side. So, and like and the fact that the way they reestablished from that is I think is very graceful in the way they did it. But like
it was optimistic,
yeah, for sure. I think though, and I think you're right. Well, I think the other thing too was I think a lot of people miss that with Godzilla, and it becomes about him being the nuclear bomb, because at one point, and I don't know from that perspective, I don't know if it was a commercialization thing to make Godzilla more commercial in other countries, or if it was just a cultural change or what it was. But like it's at one point it changed from he was a direct creation from that to he became a creation in nuclear bomb testing. And so like I think that's why a lot of people forget that. And like this movie kind of brings that back, and like which is that like kind of OG lore, which is interesting, and that they're doing that. And like and maybe now, because like I think the doomsday clock, we're at 3 seconds to midnight.
Yeah.
So if there's any time,
it's very relevant right now.
Yeah, if there's any time right now in the world to, and for those who don't know, like the doomsday clock is the way the world kind of measures to how close we are to potential nuclear arms race or nuclear missiles dropping, and like closer you are to midnight, the closer you are, and we are 3 seconds away from midnight. 3 ticks of that clock. It's the closest we've ever been in human history since they've created this measurement. And so like maybe now is more time ever that they kind of go back to that to kind of remind the world like, hey, probably shouldn't go this route.
Yeah, and there are books written about it, and it's ironic our memory for such things like this. Literally, it was almost to the day 80 years ago that we dropped these weapons. So literally 1 generation ago. Are we going to have to do this every generation to remind people why we don't do this? It's crazy. And there's a really good, I would recommend it to anybody who's interested in this narrative, this conversation. There's a really good documentary on Netflix called Turning Point, The Bomb in the Cold War, that and I haven't vetted all of the information, but all of it seemed very valid, the experts they did. But understanding that there's a high likelihood that there was no reason for us to drop the bombs ever. Like we had already in effect beat Japan in the Pacific. Like all of our blockades of their ports, they were starving already. Like they as a people were already struggling. And literally the Soviet Union was on the water about to do a final invasion to take over their ports and finish the war. Like they were that close to surrender. But because we did not want the Soviet Union to be the ones who won the battle in the Pacific, we dropped the bomb on these people. Like we dropped 2 bombs on this nation so that the Soviet Union couldn't get the prize or the winnings of the Pacific. Like that may be the actual real story. And I'm not saying it is. I'm saying go watch the documentary and do your own research. But there's a compelling story for what did we actually do and who is the actual hero here? Because literally after we dropped the bombs, that's when the Cold War started. That's when the Soviet Union said, oh crap, this is the only thing we need to be investing in right now is we've got to get balance because the US is willing to use these and they're the only ones that have them.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's like even you mentioned Oppenheimer, which is through rose-colored glasses. If you read American Prometheus, which is kind of like hit like the best probably biography about him, but like once it gets to this point where they make them, and then they realize like the Nazis don't have them, he was like, "Oh, okay, we're gonna take this apart, right?"
Yeah.
And the military's like loading the truck. He's like, what are we doing? What are you doing? And like his kind of reaction.
It wasn't science anymore. Yeah.
No. And then once those bombs are dropped, his reaction, what he spent the rest of his life doing, like the weight he carried from that, like it's they don't really talk about that part much. And like so much to the point where like the US government turned against him. And was trying to make him look like
he was a communist,
which history is always a little gray. He was kind of involved in communism a little bit, but like but the fact that like that wasn't a problem, they knew about that. It wasn't a problem until he wasn't
their communist
trying to get countries to get rid of their nuclear weapons. Like it's
I mean, even to this, well, it's not to this day. I mean, it was 10 years ago, which is breaking my heart. Even a show like The Office, one of my favorite episodes is the Benihana episode, the Christmas, Benihana Christmas. But then you have this trust fund prick, Andy, in a Benihana's making the joke of, you should try Nagasaki. They won't make it for you everywhere. And then you think about the cultural statement of a stupid joke like that. And you're like, yeah, maybe we're not the right people to judge anybody's culture or position on this kind of stuff. Because we don't talk about that. We don't talk about who we are as a people from a global perspective. We just talk about how the rest of the world jokes about us for being overweight and uneducated and all, which is all true. But we don't talk about the world seeing us as the only people on the planet who had the audacity to do this thing to a people.
Yeah, history's written.
So how about Godzilla, guys? How about this monster movie?
He had a chunky butt. He had a chunky butt.
Sorry, like I said, I totally recognize that we are not the right three people to resolve any of that conversation, but I feel at least a responsibility to bring it up, that we recognize that this movie is not about big lizards walking through the city. This movie has other weights that it's carrying, and it deserves to continue into its 30th series episode.
Listen, Godzilla's so good.
And it will keep going until people don't even know what it's referencing anymore.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I think it's done that. It's
actually like, now to be.
I was going to say Godzilla's a weird series.
How many years?
Yeah,
because even in Japan, like that's what it was. And then once you get to Godzilla 3, he was kind of reluctant to like he was fighting a monster, but because that monster attacked him.
Yeah,
and then by 4,
he's the middle-aged dad at that point.
He was basically a Power Ranger. Then by 5, he had a kid, and it was just him and the friends he's made in 3 and 4 beating the shit out of people. Yeah. And then by the time you
and then the freaking people made 7. A robot version of him.
Yeah, and then he's got, and like they can't control it, so he's got to fight that with his gang of merry men. And like that went on, and like Godzilla being like a friend went all the way up until I think like the 90s at some point, and then it was like, oh, he's bad. And then people were like, ugh. They're like,
and then Matthew Broderick came along.
Oh God!
You know what's crazy? Like Japan almost doesn't even recognize that one because, like,
good.
Nor should they.
No, when that Matthew Broderick one came out, that's when like around the time Shin Godzilla came out, and they're like, what the fuck did they make? We gotta make a menace, people, menace. And that's like Shin Godzilla is probably one of the biggest menaces on film you've ever seen. And then like everybody was like, oh, that US one sucked. Like, all right, he can go back to having friends again and fighting.
He's not mad anymore. Yeah. He's just disappointed.
Yeah. He's just disappointed. Which I would argue somehow even this, with all my problems with this Godzilla design, still look better than that Matthew Broderick Godzilla.
Of course,
100%.
Yeah.
This is Godzilla. I don't know what that was. That was a T-Rex with a lot of dental work.
It
was a weird lizard.
It almost looked like a Looney Tune alligator. Yeah. Which I almost called an alligator. But it's an alligator. An alligator.
Was it anthropomorphized?
You know what? Listen, man. You know what's crazy? And I don't know if it's because I was born in West Virginia. I don't know what the answer is, but like I say these words in my head. And then when my brain sends it to my mouth, it's like my lips are like you just can't say it. I'm like, what are you doing, lips?
My favorite, and for those that watch the YouTube, maybe you'll see it too. My favorite moment though was your brain sending that word to your lips and your face realizing, why on earth did I pick this freaking word? Like, what are you doing, brain? Like, you know better than this.
Yeah. It's like that happens to me a lot. Like I like there's even like I know at
anthropomorphize. Why? Where did you get that word?
Like I even know at my job, people will laugh at me sometimes because believe it or not, I'm a little bit intelligent, but like my lips don't know that. And so like even at work sometimes like I'll be saying stuff, they'll be like, oh wow, and then like my brain's like, all right, let's wrap this up, and it sends down the word and my lips are just like
oobity boobity.
They're like what are you saying? I'm like, and then like it just negates everything. Even if I said the most profound shit, it's negated now because it's like my lips,
thanks to them.
It's like my lips rebelled against me.
He needs to be like rebooted. He said too many smart things in a row, and it was just like, and it just
the werewolves.
Listen, no, that's just
them.
Hold on. The werewolves thing is just an accent thing. Okay, that's like, listen, that's just an accent thing. I can't help that. All right, all right, that's just an accent thing.
I'm just playing.
It's like those people that say ambulance. Okay,
ambulance, or as they say in Germany, Krankenwagen.
Yeah, that word, which I can't say.
One of my favorite foreign words, and I don't even know why. One of the things I did want to say that I found delightful and uplifting in the trivia was that Spielberg actually sought out Yamazaki, who's the director of this movie. This is, I think, his first big movie, Yamazaki as a filmmaker. But Spielberg sought him out and to tell him how much he enjoyed this movie, that he had seen it like 3 times in a week's time. And Yamazaki's response to that was that he compared it to being praised by God. Like, it was like he never even would have imagined that somebody like Steven Spielberg would even know who he was, much less watch his movie, because of, what Spielberg means to him as a filmmaker. So I thought that was really cool. Like, literally just blew his brain that Spielberg would know who he was, much less praise him for the movie he just made. So, attaboy Yamazaki.
Listen, I have not. I like I said, I will give this movie credit that I have not had the same feeling I had with Jaws, like that feeling them on a boat. I have not had that feeling since Jaws, and like I had that feeling because like the music, the old the OG Godzilla music's playing, and like those boats are going, and he's following them. So I'm like, holy shit! I'm like, this is Jaws.
Now we're having fun.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, chunky boy,
get him. And that's what Jaime. That's what I love is I know that Jaime is somewhere saying, kill them, get them, kill all the boats.
Catch up.
I've had to follow this moper around for the last hour and a half. Eat him, please.
Don't pull him back up from the water. I know that's later, but yeah, I mixed, there's the mixed feelings on taking him down versus letting him survive. Although you take something like Cloverfield and I have no problem killing that monster. You know what I'm trying to say? And maybe that also hits home and that might be a thing. And I'm not putting New York. We're not going there, but like, I don't know him.
In your city,
it's monster versus an animal in a way. I know he's not, but he looks like just a giant lizard glorified. And I'm putting him as if we shrink him, he could live in my apartment. And I have no problem with
it. You just hear like he's like little 3-inch Godzilla, and you just hear a little like and he's like little fly, like just like a little mosquito.
And then we have Sari trying to eat it through a tank or something because that's what she does.
She'd be going nuts.
Yeah,
like he hits them. It's like almost like a little lighter.
Her prey drive would just be.
Siri's got little like singe marks because it's not even enough to hurt her. Like it's just like little singes in her fur.
So it sounds like we've said our piece about this flick. So, listen, and we are still talking about the creature, which obviously Dave has a Dave Critter Corner for this week.
Is it Godzilla?
It is the man himself, the titular character.
No, it's the fish. Wait. We didn't even talk about those penis fish. Stop. Go back 1 second.
Okay.
I'm not even going to go on. Dave, we're going to talk about Godzilla. But the fish that come up. So when Godzilla's around the fish tie, which okay, makes sense. Why did all those fish look like penises? Or is it just my brain that always wants things to look like penises? Like, was it just me?
I think there's more to unpack there.
Yeah. I don't know if any Dave or I are licensed to discuss this with you. I'll be honest, I had the same thought.
Didn't they not look like fish though?
Well,
Like the first time the one comes to like shore, I did not know what it was. I thought it was like a body part and not a penis. I thought it was like something. I was just like, I mean, I knew logically it had to be a fish, but I was like, what is he looking at?
So like that's I kept going back and forth.
A weird type of fish?
I didn't know if it was like the radiation like mutated the fish that was around him, or
they looked
like,
weird.
There's a lot of different eels, I think, if I remember correctly, around Japan. Like they're like a food source.
I thought they were mutant fish. I thought they were like Godzilla fish. Like I thought they were like.
Yeah, I kept going back and forth. I surprisingly I wasn't like, no, it's like a penis. I was just like, that's a weird looking fish.
I can't remember the fish, honestly. They did not make the impression on me.
They look like penises. Okay, like maybe even they don't look like penises. They don't look like fish. Let's put it that way. They were.
Were they whales or something?
No, they were fish, but like I thought they're at the start of the movie, and then when they're on the fishing boat when he knows it's when he knows Godzilla's around. But like at the start of the movie, since it's the start of the movie, I literally thought they were like mutated fish because I couldn't figure out. Like, they didn't look like fish to me. I don't like. They didn't just look like regular fish. That
I believe you.
You know what? Hold on. I take all this back. Let's just.
The fish are fine.
Hey, I'm just waiting, Dave, till one night we get a call at like midnight. Jimmy's like, I heard a knock at my door and I looked out my peephole and there was a penis. You're like, what? There's a penis walking around the hallway.
I think
it's
maybe
more the brain. It's just.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, we have watched some phallic movies in the last several weeks, and
you forget how many I watched in that time span.
Because you watched all the Alien movies leading up to the new one, didn't you?
Yeah, I watched all around. I watched all of them.
Yeah, that on top of having a completely phallic themed year last year. Maybe we broke Jamie. Maybe it's us that needs to apologize.
You know what, guys? Are we all obsessed with penises?
Maybe we're the problem.
Yeah.
Audience, let us know. If you think it's us, you know what? Bad news is that the call is coming from inside the house. Let me
stop you. We probably don't want to know the answer to that.
Not only that, I was going to say, not only that, I don't think it's going to change. So tell us whatever the fuck you want. Because it doesn't
nothing
matter.
we can do about it at this point.
We're not changing. Best penis.
Please don't. You know what?
So anyway, back to our character.
Soliciting dick pics.
Too late, you're getting them.
What if they're classily drawn? Classily? Man, my lips! What if they're classy drawings?
Classy drawings?
Like Leo with one of his French girls.
One of his French penises?
Yeah, one of his, like Leo, one of his French penises.
What, Jamie? We lost you there. She has turned the same color as my shirt, people. My buddy Jamie has blue screened.
Oh my God, this is great.
Beet red at this point. Fantastic.
I feel like I need to get a t-shirt made for Jamie that's Leo drawing, but you're behind his shoulder is just a penis on a bat. But like not a good one, like one like a 7th grader.
One of the ones I drew on your whiteboard the first time you let me use it on him.
Yeah. I think like we need to get together and make a shirt for Jamie that day.
I genuinely am concerned we may have lost Jamie. I think she has totally checked out for the rest of the evening.
Did she cry laughing? Oh, she's cry laughing.
Y'all pray for Jamie.
That's double points, right?
Oh, Lord.
Teach me about Godzilla.
First fact about his penis.
He is thunder thighs for a reason. So Godzilla, or also his scientific name, Titanus Gojira, first appeared in the iconic 1954 movie Godzilla, obviously, just 9 years after the U.S. nuclear attacks on Japan. That blows my mind that this original story was 9 years, within a decade of those events. Godzilla has varied in height, which is well established. I mean, he, like you said earlier, Jamie, even with this movie, he was a little all over the place. But in his life, in the lifespan of all the movies and all the comics and everything, he is usually between 164 feet tall, which is what he is in this one by canon, to 394 feet, which I think is more of his Godzilla King of the Monsters scale, like the absurd scale. and in some minor or lesser, not lesser, in some anime, because Godzilla is the main character in a lot of anime series. In some of those, he's even bigger, like probably hundreds of feet, like 500, 600, 700 feet, whatever size he needs to be. That's the size he is that day. He has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which is fantastic. One of the very, very few fictitious characters that has an actual star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
That's crazy.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Little fun fact that y'all can use at parties. A lot of people think that the word Gojira means thunder lizard or king lizard. You know what Gojira literally translates to? And this is fantastic.
Penis?
Gorilla whale.
Gorilla whale.
His official name, it's a Japanese portmanteau, and it directly translates to the gorilla whale. And I can never look at him any other way now. He is officially the gorilla whale.
Oh my God.
I want to change my screen name to that.
Go for it.
Gorilla
Your screen
whale.
name. What year are we in?
Well, I mean, like on Discord, my Discord name.
Your user.
Gorilla whale.
I'm going to change my AOL Live feed.
Hey, kid, why don't you come on down?
AIM. I'm on AIM Messenger while you put up your emo quote too for your Wayne message.
Poppy rocks and
Let me update my MySpace real quick.
Root beer.
It's not even funny. I miss MySpace.
Got to
Is that
put
a
up
penis
my
on that
latest
bottle?
tunes that I'm listening to for the week on my MySpace page. We have lost the plot, haven't we? Godzilla is considered a god. Duh, he's Godzilla. But not like a religious god, obviously. You know, in Japanese culture, gods aren't these things necessarily that you worship. They're just beings bigger than you, almost more like a Greek thing. And they mainly just are malevolent forces of chaos. Like they do what they want to do, and they don't care if they destroy your city doing it. It's not like a thing that you negotiate with. It's a thing that comes along and you hold on to your butts until it's gone. And that's about all you can deal with when they're around. To the conversation we had earlier, Godzilla's atomic heat breath, which I think is the official term for what he has, is considered one of the most destructive forces in the universe, which is why it requires so much energy and makes the big boy need nappy time whenever which I think is a fantastic part of the lore. Like he throws an absolute tantrum and then he has to go take a nap.
Yeah.
I can get down with that energy.
Yeah.
That's me every day of my life.
Although in this one, didn't he ramp up pretty quickly again in this one? Like,
yeah, he did.
Like at the end,
he did recover better.
I thought they had like time, and it was just like, no, he's charging up again.
I like my monsters like I like my life. I want to hit F it, and then I'm going to go lay down for a couple of days. And there's nothing y'all can do about it.
Yeah.
So that's all I've got. Eli, tell us, what are we following up Godzilla Minus One on Campfire Tales?
You know, I thought we'd take another little trip back to the land of the rising sun, talk about some more Japanese cryptids, because that well is the one that just keeps giving.
It's a deep one.
It is real deep. And every time you think you hit the weirdest, you didn't. You didn't.
So we have that to look forward to.
Oh, and Jamie, you'll be excited. One of the ones I want to talk about, balls of penis. So,
yay.
Don't know if I like this reputation.
I was going to say, this is, the train has left the station, Jamie. I'm sorry, but there's nothing we can do about it at this point. So thank you all for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode. I mentioned it earlier. If you have any feedback or insights in any of the things we talked about tonight, like I said, there are things that are much deeper waters than we can wade into just without becoming off as completely artificial and, almost culturally appropriating, which is certainly not at all what we were trying to do. But if you have feedback, we'd love to hear that or insights. If you want to follow us, you can do that on our social medias, which is X at Wicked While We Are, Slasher, the horror only community at Wicked While We Are there as well. On Instagram at Wicked Wild Pod. We do have a video that I referenced earlier that we put out with every review and with every Campfire Tales. And you can just go to YouTube and search the Wicked Wild Podcast and you'll find us there. If you have any questions or any of that insight, any of the feedback you want to send directly to me, if you don't want it to necessarily be public, if it's just something you want to get to me, I would love to get that. I would cherish the opportunity to have a conversation with you. You can send me an email, podcast@thewickedwild.com. Wickedwild.com is our website, where you can go learn a little bit about the hosts and see some of our book reviews and some of the other stuff we've got going on there. Anything else? Anything I missed, guys?
And look forward in the shop. Pretty soon there'll be the official Jaime Penis t-shirt.
Okay. I don't know who's drawing it, Jaime, but I can promise you it won't be me.
I say you don't want me to draw. Listen, no, it's classy because we're going to blatantly steal the image of Leonardo DiCaprio, drawn in his book like a Titanic, but only it's like a 7th grade level penis.
There'll just be a wiener on the couch.
We could customize it because we could let you draw your own wiener, and that's what we put in his notebook.
Oh my God.
The first pecker pick. So, and it has been a conversation that's come up before, but Eli, why do you think it is that we've never seen another creature like Godzilla in his universe? Like, why is there only one of him?
Oh man,
why is that?
I would argue it's because he is so iconic in his look, in his ability, and like I think like that personality they gave him early on has helped. They have tried, but like. I mean, King Kong, like, all I'm going to say is, like, they've tried a couple times, but I don't know if you noticed, he got real big the first time they partnered him with Godzilla. Because what we've seen in film recently is it, so, like, Godzilla made him better. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
And, like, some of the other ones they've tried to do, like, it just, like, they always look weird because they try to make them look weird on a grand scale. They don't need to. But, like, Godzilla's just, like, I mean, look out.
Yeah, all the creatures that he's battled, like all of the other kaiju these battles, never been like there's not ever been an evil Superman kind of situation. It's like an evil counterpart to Godzilla. It's always a very different creature.
Yeah, like I mean, you figure like Ghidorah came from space, like there was that whole thing. Mechagodzilla, I don't even know if I'd count him because he's like just a giant stupid robot.
Yeah.
I mean, there was like, Destroyer didn't even look like him. And that was like the Thanos of the Godzilla universe.
Yeah. Yeah, Jaime, I think it's probably, if we think about it, I think the reason that there's only one Godzilla is because he probably has a reptile dysfunction.
Oh my God. I knew it. I knew when you asked me that.
Good night, everybody.
Use me as a doorway.